So, handling merchant acquisition for Walmart is definitely a serious business. And I'm sure while you were with Amazon as well, Amazon Pay was a serious business. I don't know how many of them really know you, Mrinal, but you're the most jovial guy I've ever met. The person who's extremely witty, has a loud laugh. How has it been for you to actually manage this serious business at Walmart?
Well, I mean, you need to make work fun. And I think you need to really sort of internalize what you're solving for. And I think that's one of the things that I try to do in my career, both at Amazon Pay, for example. My focus was to see how we can solve customers' payment pains. And that was like the higher order calling that we were trying to solve.
Sure.
And at Walmart, it is, though the domain is very different from payments, but I think, what we are trying to solve for our customers is making sure we have the right selection of items in our stores and on online, make sure the price continues to be competitive and the lowest possible prices at which we can make it available to our customers. And the entire downstream supply chain replenishment, the costing platforms, the search platforms, and things like that. So I think, I think when it is serious business, it is serious business. So, I have my moments where people say Mrinal is very uptight, and there are also moments where people say, it's great fun to work with Mrinal. But I think you have to include fun as part of your work, because we are all humans, right? And you have to have your moments. You let your steam out and all of that kind of stuff. And I try to create that environment at work.
Sure.
So we have fun moments at work, just and have conversations which are a lot more open and transparent, right? I run like an open house where my team members can come and talk. There is no limit to what they can ask. So they can ask me anything.
Sure.
And they've asked me questions about how can we improve office transportation and things like that. Recruiting process and things, which is completely very different from technology. So in some places I'm able to help, some places I push them to say, hey, what is your innovation to sort of simplify those things? And in some cases I reach out to my stakeholders and say, hey, this is the feedback that I'm getting from my team members. So all in the intent of making things better.
Awesome. So we'd like to welcome Mrinal Chatterjee for this specific podcast where we'd like to talk about how technology is really, being looked at Walmart. Now, if I were to think of how your CEO spoke about datafying everything, right? Sorry, datafying everything, and where Walmart has a lot of data and it's been around for such a long period of time. And if I were to ask you, how does the AI and machine learning piece really help you datafy all the information that you have at Walmart?
No, it's a great question. It's a great question. We have debated internally as well, like, what does Doug mean by that? He has addressed our own internal associates and engineers as to what is his thinking process. Just to give you a context, I mean, Walmart has been in the business for like 57, 58 years now. We have data has been front and center for us to be able to run such a large operation. We run about 11,000 something stores worldwide, with about close to 4,600, 4,700 stores in US. So data is an absolute integral part of it. And there's a lot of places like our shopping experience or our mobile apps or the desktop apps and our supply chain and a lot of the things that we do in terms of merchandising decisions and pricing decisions. A lot of it is driven through data sciences and machine learning algorithms. I think the way I internalized it is, I think Doug's challenge to us is think all across the board, not only some of these critical high transactional kind of systems, but think about every place where we are building our platforms and services. How do you make data as an integral decision making in terms of your architecture choices? So that we can leverage machines where machines are good at. and leverage human intelligence with our large workforce and deep retail experience, where we leverage humans and our associates, their knowledge, to make decisions where machines might be imperfect. So things which where machines can, with the right amount of data training and things like that, can drive a lot of right decisions. Let's just put that. So a lot of our application designs, our platforms, our services now, our data science is becoming a very integral part of it. In fact, if I look at in my team, in last 1 year, one of the single job family which has the highest amount of growth has been the data science and machine learning engineers.
Sure, sure. So I think the last time that I did read about how you guys have managed to use IoT to looking at freshness of vegetables, I think you guys called it. I forget the name though, but this was more in terms of how you'd be able to use IoT in India, which is fairly very surprising. But how have we actually used it in India in terms of the IoT with freshness of vegetables, supply chain, right? Because India is still struggling a lot in terms of to see supply chain from a technology perspective, right? So how do you think Walmart's really added to that? Because for you guys, supply chain is the most important piece when we look at e-commerce as a subject, right? So would you be able to help us with that info?
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, like, for the core of a retail business is for us to be able to provide competitive and as low of a price to our customers. Supply chain is a disproportionate high cost. And especially in certain kind of merchandising like fresh produce and things like that, it is absolutely critical to, because you need to have temperature control, you have cold storages, the transportation needs to have. So we are disproportionately deploying IoTs in our refrigeration platforms, in our where we are managing, we are getting feedback from our thermometers in terms of what temperatures are, and it's really helping us sort of manage not only just the freshness, but also the amount of energy consumed to keep them fresh.
Sure.
And not sure if you know that we have made a promise to get rid of 1 billion tons of greenhouse gases from our supply chain by 2030.
Wow.
So this is a big initiative. We are doing a lot of things beyond just this. But coming back, like IoTs are front and center. Our stores where our fresh produce are kept, the supply chain where the fresh produces are in transit, our trucks, so that we continue to sort of not only be efficient but deliver freshest produce to our customers.
So this is actually taking us back to the subject on what Doug really spoke about, looking at data as the primary objective for Walmart, right? So even if you're talking about IoT, I'm sure the IoT is managing data of a lot of sets, right, from the time the produce hits the warehouse and from where it gets transported.
Yes.
How does just for a layman like us to understand from a tech perspective, how does the entire thing get managed? From right from the time it gets produced to the time it hits someone's, let's say my fridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm not an expert in that domain, but I think overall, few things that we do. There is a lot of planning and execution rigor that needs to happen, because unlike a general merchandise, right, like a toaster or something like that, it has a long shelf life and they're not perishable. So at what time they are picked from by the farmers, how much time it takes for the produce to be ripe at the shelf. All of that planning needs to sort of come into the process. In our cold storage, there is a certain traits each of those vegetables sort of need in terms of the amount of moisture, the amount of the temperature, and things like that. So all of that comes into sort of picture to make sure that by the time it gets to your fridge, or when you come into our grocery stores, it stays fresh. It is at the right optimal place.
Sure.
And then again, we have bundles where, like, for example, if you're buying bananas, now we know, like, typically when people are buying bananas, they're buying probably like, a dozen or so at a time. The consumption will sort of carry on for a few days, right? Whereas some other things like watermelon, chances are you're going to consume it in a single time kind of thing. So all of that comes into the planning process. So our merchandisers, our buyers, our suppliers, it is an end-to-end integrated supply chain platform where we come to know when an item is coming into our ecosystem even before it comes into it,
Right.
so that we can do our planning process. What could kill this whole thing is if we have lags in our processes,
Right.
where either the item is sitting too long in our warehouse or it is sitting too long in our supplier's warehouse and things like that. So supply chain becomes an extremely integral part of it. And what your earlier question about IoTs, this is where a lot of places IoTs are coming and helping us.
Sure, sure. So, Mrinal, what I've really liked about what you've done in your career is you've spent a lot of time in the US and you've also moved to India. You've seen things from a closer perspective. And I remember you often telling me that it's important for you to stay close to where the business is, right? Because that's when you get to know what is the impact technology has, right? So if I do know that Walmart's doing a lot of initiatives with respect to blockchain projects. So when do we actually see what's going to happen in India with respect to any of these projects which are being run by Walmart? Because you do know that we are here, right? So we'd like to see how this is going to impact our lives. So how much of technology is going to touch us?
So I think to answer your question, yes, there is a sizable team which is working on sort of driving innovation in our India business. India business continues to be a small footprint compared to our global business that we are running, but it's growing at a pretty exciting rate. Lot of the technologies that we build, so everything that we were talking about, IoTs and everything else, there is a leader here in Bangalore who's sort of driving many of those, even for our India business. So yes, everything that we do is built as a global platform. So it is not country specific. Then what we do is we do modifications for specific country needs and things like that, right? A lot of times it might be the choice of the IoT devices that we use, the nature of needs. For example, in India, temperatures could go as high as 50 degrees, for example.
Right.
So the kind of refrigerations that we use, the IoT devices that we use, one of the critical things in this whole thing is to make sure that your devices don't fail, right? So we will do local modifications based on the needs of the local market, but in general, all our platforms that we build are global platforms. And many of those platforms are getting used across the board in different countries for different use cases, and India is no exception to that.
Sure.
Yeah, so you will see as time goes by, and fundamental to our retail business, you already know, retail is an extremely thin margin business, right? So any kind of innovation that we are able to deploy in different markets to reduce the cost of our operation and hence delivering low prices to our customers is single most important thing.
Sure. Sure. Would you actually be kind enough to tell us anything that's with respect to technology that Walmart's really done, which is new age technology? This brings us back to the subject that you and I often talk about because you come from Amazon and you moved into Walmart. Amazon's great with the new technologies that come out in the market. Whereas Walmart, at least what the perception that the market really has is still using outdated technologies or technology which probably is still not new age.
Sure.
Right. So, would you be able to tell us what is it that you've managed to build since the time you've gotten there?
So there are things that in progress right now. So unless they become public, I can't talk about it.
Sure.
But a few things, being both at Amazon and now at Walmart. One thing that I've noticed is what Walmart does. It's a very humble organization. We don't talk about a lot of the innovations unless it goes and hits and creates an impact to our customers.
Okay.
So there is a lot of experiments that are running. SAMS, which is our bulk buying experience for our customers, is driving a lot of innovation through their stores for their member experience and things like that. Even in our stores, we are driving a lot of automation, a lot of innovation for our associates. As you know, we are probably one of the largest private sector employer in the world with about 2.3 million associates. A big part of our workforce is our store associates. So their productivity, their quality of work, their quality of life is equally as important to us. for them to be able to be effective in terms of serving our customers. So a lot of innovation is getting driven on those sites. One of the things that we are experimenting right now is delivering right into your refrigerator. It is getting experimented in few cities in US right now. Because if you look at consumers in India versus consumers in US, um, you know, many of our customers in India are fortunate enough to have household help. So not having somebody at home is less of a problem in India. It's a very big problem in US. They are mostly nuclear families. Both husband and wife are working. How do you get fresh items to their home? Leaving it at the doorstep doesn't make sense. These are perishable items. So we are experimenting with how do we sort of get it to directly into your refrigerator. So those are some of the innovation that we are trying, and it comes at we have to consider a lot of things in the whole ecosystem. For example, the privacy of our customers, because one of our associates is going to walk into their house, right? How do we make sure that our customers know exactly what our associates did when they were walked into the house, kind of thing. So there's a lot of those kind of innovation that is getting driven. The other thing that is getting driven, I think, some of it started before I joined Walmart, was this push to sort of have a unified view about our customer experience and unified view in terms of how do we do our supply chain. We have excelled a lot of these in our stores business. And, e-commerce is our upcoming part of our business. So we are leveraging a lot of our learning from our stores into online. And same is true on the reverse side as well. Like some of the platforms that I manage, we are building core capabilities and leveraging the knowledge that we have from our stores and bringing it to our e-commerce side of the business.
Excellent.
Right. Yeah.
So this would, I'm just going to go back to what the initial point that you said. Walmart is really humble, right? So let's talk a little bit about the culture, because I'm sure you'd like to talk about how there's been a shift from Amazon to Walmart. And if you can talk about how it's been for you in terms of culture, and how have you impacted bringing Amazon to Walmart as well?
Okay. Um, so if you look at our business, right? I mean, Walmart, big difference that I feel between Amazon and Walmart. Um, our customers, whether you look at Amazon customers when I was at Amazon or Walmart customers when I'm here at Walmart now, um, I didn't feel like our customers when I was at Amazon really came and connect with us. They knew us through that beautiful brown box with a smiley on it, right? So that was our connect to our customers at Amazon. Um, at Walmart is very, very different. Our customers come into our stores. Our associates help our customers. In a lot of places, our associates, and actually in all the places, our associates are actually members of the local community, right? So it's a very human touch. And we believe like serving our customer is the single most important thing that we do each and every day. And in this case, our customers actually walk into our stores. They come ask questions. They give us real-time feedback. So everything in terms of the cleanliness of our stores matter. The lighting in our stores matter. Our shelves to make sure that they are stocked. Because our customers are spending time to come to our store. They're coming and doing their grocery, right? Helping them save money and time is equally important to us. So we need to make sure what our customers are looking for, it's available on the shelf, right? So that humbleness sort of comes. We collect feedback from our associates in the store, which is sort of non-datafied data that we sort of collect to understand what our customers are telling us and what are the local innovations or innovations that we can drive in our stores, for example. Just to give you an example, not this last Thanksgiving, but the year before that, 2018, one of the feedback that some of our store associates had given us is a lot of our customers come to buy during those peak holiday seasons, but they have few items that they buy. They don't have like a cart full of items. Now, they do end up waiting a lot of long time in our checkout lanes, just because a lot of people are shopping for the holidays. So we launched something called Checkout With Me. So you can just pick up your app in the store, scan the item, pay for it in your app. You don't have to stand in line. and then on your way out, you just show the payment to the usher at the gate and just walk out. It significantly reduced the wait time for our customers. So lot of innovation that we are driving, but I think that humbleness comes from the fact that we are serving the community. There's a lot of social impact that we are creating to our to the neighborhoods where we exist, right? A lot of employment that we sort of generate in those neighborhoods, right? So I think that humbleness comes from it because we see what our customers are going through. I felt like in a lot of places at Walmart, at Amazon, I could only see my customers through data and not the real customer, like, being able to interact. Like, for example, every time I go to US, part of my office visits, I always make sure that I go to a Walmart store. A lot of times, if you have your badge on you, your customers will come and ask you, where do I find shampoo? Right? And it's a very humble thing when you see a mother with two kids dragging a cart, right? You see the real customer right in front of you. So humbleness sort of gets built out of it. And if you look at our founder, Sam Walton, he was himself a very humble person. And I think it sort of started from there.
Sure. I'm just going to go back to your checkout app. That seemed interesting. You do know that I'm going to pick on technology more.
Sure, of course.
So, isn't that very similar to Amazon Go when you look at what you just said? How different is it from the Amazon Go store? Where you go.
So Amazon Go is a very different concept where you do not. I mean, the Go stores are based on all the cameras and the sensors in the shop are detecting what you picked up from the shelf. You don't even have to scan the item. You just pick it up and you just walk out. I think it's a great innovation that Amazon is sort of driving, but it has its own constraints. The technology still, there is like the spacement of the items on the shelf, the number of devices that you need to put on throughout the store. There are concerns about customer privacy that sort of comes in. We are experimenting in some similar formats and things like that in terms of say that, is it truly value that we can deliver to our customer? But Checkout with Me is a very simple experience, but extremely powerful, where you just scan the item, make the payment through your Walmart Pay, and pay it in through the app and just walk out. But you do have to scan the item. Right? So there are differences in terms of the use cases. Given our large format stores, I mean, like for example, our super centers may carry about 2 lakh items, right? Our shelf density is higher. So it becomes extremely hard. But we are experimenting with some of our this thing. Maybe some of these things will show up in our neighborhood stores at some point of time. But we are constantly evolving. We are constantly sort of experimenting to see, because saving customers' time is an equally important aspect of what we are doing, besides saving money.
Right. So I follow you on Twitter. So I did see your last tweet on AlphaBot. So what do you would like to share with us? Because I know warehouses are state of the art anyways nowadays, right? Even in India, we have loads of them which have come up. So I did see the video as well on the launch of the AlphaBot. Yes. Seems very interesting. Would you be able to tell us a little more in terms of how should we relate to it?
Well, I'm also reading it just like you are, so I don't have any insight into that. Okay. I think it's a very innovative technology and a very innovative use case. Kudos to the team who's trying that thing, and we'll figure out when it comes out.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us from a tech perspective with Walmart that the listeners should really be wooed by and would want to come and join your team?
Sure, absolutely. So I think few things, right? We have started disproportionately investing in technology, right? I mean, for Walmart, technology is nothing new. I mean, we have been doing this thing. The first connected POS terminals sort of came at Walmart, right? There was a lot of innovation that we did, just-in-time inventory and a bunch of other things that we did at Walmart. And that was decades ago, right? So few things that we are doing. I mean, we are world's largest retailer. So the amount of data and the scale that we are sort of managing is humongous. It really forces you to think about how to design your platforms, design your services to be able to handle that scale. How do you manage your infrastructure? Retail is a non-linear business. it has its peaks and valleys and things like that. So cloud becomes an absolute integral part of your designs and architecture and deployment strategy and all of that kind of stuff. And then finally, like, the amount of investment we are making in data science, both in terms of building raw talent and delivering like really complex models to solve hard problems, but also how do we build our applications and platforms and services who is leveraging all those decision systems and making the right choice on behalf of our users, so that our users who are like buyers, our customer experience specialists and those people, they can take on a higher order role in the organization. There are a lot of things that there is room for automation. So in terms of talent, I mean, Bangalore continues to be a hotbed for us. We are growing pretty significantly year over year, and it's an integral engineering center for us. One thing which I get asked a lot, which makes me feel that we are not doing a good enough of a job, is people keep asking, like, so what do we do at Walmart Labs in India? And is it mostly like, staff augmentation, right? Doing work as an extended team? The answer is absolutely no. If you look at it, I don't have the numbers, but I would not be surprised about 40+% of what we are doing is core innovation driven out of India. A lot of the teams, some of our platforms are so large that, having a team in a single location sometimes even doesn't make sense. So we may have part of this team sitting here, part of the team may be sitting in some parts in US, but they collaborate. I mean, we have invested a lot in terms of collaboration within within the company, so makes it extremely seamless and easy for teams in different geography to sort of drive. But India as a center is sort of front and center in terms of all our strategic planning, how we think about application designs, how the location strategy sort of comes in. A lot of innovation is getting driven out of it. Like if I look at my team itself, I mean 70-80% of my team, what they're working on is innovating on platforms and services outside from India itself. Makes it a little bit hard for our associates, given that most of our business, at least in the part of the business, the team that I manage, our customers are all in US. So we disproportionately focus on understanding customer metrics. We have a voice of customers that we listen to, anecdotal feedback, and from our buyers, from our merchants, from our customers, so that we keep our engineers in India plugged into what our customers are seeing based on what we are doing, and how do we keep improving our platforms.
Sure. E-commerce, I think, is an ever-growing business, and just looking at what you've just told us about Walmart and the technology that you're going to apply to a lot of other parts of what we just spoke about, and with having a lovely boss like you, I'm sure a lot of people would be interested after watching this podcast to come and join you. Thank you so much for being here, and it was a pleasure having you on our show.
Thank you very much for having me. It was great.
All right. Thank you.